All right. I call the regular meeting of the Milliken Board of Trustees on December 24th, 2025 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the town clerk please call roll?
Trustee Beckman. Here. Trustee Nix.
Here.
Trustee Orcutt.
Here.
Trustee Roseberry.
Here.
Trustee Wakeman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean.
Here.
Mayor Austin.
Here. Thank you. Do I have any changes or adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Nix.
Yes.
Trustee Orcutt.
Yes.
Trustee Roseberry.
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman.
Yes.
Trustee Beckman. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Dean.
Yes.
Mayor Austin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Do we have anybody tonight that would like to address the board? Nothing to speak on? Okay. We can then move on to, we have a proclamation tonight, and it is the Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month proclamation. So, whereas suicide can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, or background, and whereas over 49,000 deaths annually are attributed to suicide, with suicide rates in Colorado ranking 6th nationally, and 67 Weld County lives lost to suicide in 2024. And whereas through the collaborative efforts of North Range Behavioral Health, Suicide Education and Support Services, Imagine Zero of Weld County, and others, support is available. And whereas September is recognized as National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month with the goal of challenging stigma around mental health and promoting awareness around suicide prevention. And whereas helping others feel seen, valued, and supported is one of the most important things we can do to prevent suicide. We encourage all residents to learn how to talk about mental health, become familiar with national and local suicide prevention resources, and check in on your family, friends, and neighbors. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim September 2025 as Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month in the town of Milliken, and call upon citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of behavioral health and need for appropriate and accessible services for all citizens. And I believe that we have some guests to speak tonight. So please approach the podium and state your name for us.
My name is Isabel Hood Farley. And I just want to say thank you. Just thank you so much for recognizing September as Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. It truly is communities like yours that we can come together and spread awareness and spread prevention resources. So thank you, and we really appreciate all that you do. So would it be possible to take a picture with you?
Sure.
Yeah.
With the proclamation?
Yeah, we'll all come down the front.
Okay, perfect.
We can stretch our legs for a moment.
Yeah. I need to get my good side.
Which one's that?
The one that I'm not next to you.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
Come on, be friendly, people.
Oh, do you have the proclamation? Oh, I guess we might need the proclamation. You're missing a very important key component.
Can you reach in a second?
You got it, Josh? Okay. You can hold it. You want me to hold it? Okay. Hold it together with it. It's not what's in number, right? Thank you.
Yes, you can take that one with you. Oh, that one's not saying, let me give you this.
Thank you so much,
Okay,
guys.
that one.
Thank you very much.
Yes, have a good evening. Thanks for coming. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you.
All righty. Does anybody have any changes or adjustments to the minutes of the previous meeting for September 10th, 2025?
Yes, ma'am, there's one minor correction on the last page. We did not adjourn at 6:74 PM. We adjourned at 6:47 PM.
Thank you. Any other changes? I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the town board meeting minutes from September 10th, 2025 as presented.
Amended.
Amended.
I second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Orcutt?
Yes.
Trustee Roseberry?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Nix?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. All righty, we have the paid list of bills. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to pose on those? We will consider the list of bills acknowledged and move on to the town administrative report. Administrator Powell.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees. This is probably the shortest one you'll ever get from me. Actually, I was out sick the last couple days, so. So staff has been meeting with Graves and Associates, who are conducting their compensation market study analysis. They will be presenting their findings to you at the work session on October 22nd. And staff also met with ProCode regarding proposed updated fees. These fees changes will be a part of the town's final fee schedule update, which will take place in January. The best part is the first dog park event will take place on October 25th between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. And the name of the event is Howl-O-Ween. So I think that's going to be kind of a fun thing. I guess put your dog in disguises or costumes and join in on all the fun.
Okay.
Outside of that, staff's just been working on budget and trying to, get a lot of those things done.
Oh, I agree with you.
Any questions from the board? Thank you very much. We're still
welcome.
busy as usual. I do want to comment that I did receive a call from a citizen today complimenting us on the great job the staff is doing with the parks and entryway into town, and felt that they were keeping up with a lot of our regular things that have to be done. So I just wanted you to know that we did get compliments.
I will pass that on to Keith. He'll be happy to hear. Works very
Alrighty.
hard.
And we do not have anything on the consent agenda, but we have a first item on the action agenda, and that is our audited financial statements, and presenting is Stephen Kolzik. Have I got that pronunciation correct?
Pretty close.
Let's try that again.
No.
Kolzik?
Crochet.
Kochek.
Kolzik.
You'll see me a lot here lately, so you'll be able to say it here soon. All right, hope I don't have
Plenty
any
of
keys here.
opportunity to learn to get it right. I apologize.
You're good. Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. Each year, the reason we have this purpose on this agenda here is to present the audit findings for 2024 and to have the Board of Trustees approve the 2024 financial statements as audited. Each year, the financial statements for the town of Milliken are independently audited as required by state statute. And then Haney and Company is who we have as our independent auditors. Normally, the audit is due to be followed by the state by the July 31st. This year, as you guys know, we did ask for dissension, so we have until the end of September to get this submitted to the state. So once it is approved, we'll get a final copy out, get official copy to the state. And at this time, I'll go ahead and introduce Abby. and Sam, if she's come up.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. My name is Abby Irvine with Haney & Company CPAs. We are the auditor that prepared the audit for the town for 2024. And I'm just here to give a quick audit update. I won't go through the audit in detail, but if there's any questions about the audit report, I think you all have a copy of it. I'm happy to answer them. Well, there we go. So just a quick agenda. So I'll provide the engagement team information. Again, my name's Abby Irvine. I was the audit manager this year. I do have Sam Dawson here. She was one of the auditors that assisted with the audit. She's never been to a council meeting before, and so this is her very first one, and she gets to hear all about the audit. So we'll quickly go through audit procedures. I'll walk through the financial statements, go through required audit communications, talk about audit adjustments, and then take questions at the end. So just real quick, the engagement team consists of, there's several folks that participate in the audit. I'm the audit manager. Ty Holman's the audit partner. I've provided our contact information. Should there ever be any questions, you certainly can always reach out to us. We are independent auditors for the town, and so if, like I mentioned, if there's ever any questions, you have our contact information. You can always reach out with questions. Just a quick summary of the audit process. So the audit did begin last year, November, December. We did come out and perform some procedures, just getting ready to perform the financial statement audit. Part of that process is identifying areas that we're going to dig into, kind of new areas or areas of higher risk that we need to focus our procedures on. We go through a process where we have to understand kind of who does what within the town, if there's been any changes, get copies of policies. We perform a series of walkthroughs of transactions to kind of understand internal control, design, and operation. And then from there, we do come out and perform more robust procedures after the end of the year. So that occurred in April of this year, and that's when it started. We take a sampling approach to the audits. That means that we don't look at all transactions, but we look at a certain number of transactions as kind of based on what's going on within the financial statements. And from there, we obviously review the information so that we are able to be here today to provide an audit opinion over the financial statements for 2024. So you have a copy of the audit report, which includes the opinion, the financial statements, and the notes. You do have a copy of the draft audit. So we will be issuing a clean or an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. For 2024, we are required to perform an audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards set out by the AICPA. So the objective of our audit, and this is written in the audit opinion, we are to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance on whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. And we do that by digging into transactions, asking questions, reviewing information so that we have a basis to be able to provide our audit opinions today. That level of assurance is the highest level of assurance that you can get on financial statements when they are audited. Real quick, this is just an overview of the financial statements that are included within the report. And so there are multiple sets. There are we like to call them government-wide financial statements, and there's a column for governmental activities, which includes all your governmental funds outside of your enterprise activities, so outside of the enterprise funds, the water, stormwater, those type of funds. Then there are, this also includes discretely presented component units. That's a really big long word for entities that you're required to include in your financial statements that are separate from the town, but for accounting purposes, auditing purposes, you're required to include them. So that would include the housing authority. They are included in your financial statements separately in a column in the audit report. You do not have any fiduciary activities. If you did, that would also be another set of statements that would be included within the financials. So in addition to the government-wide, we also have governmental fund statements. So the main differences between these two types of statements is the method of accounting that they're on. And so the government-wide statements are full accrual basis, very similar to what the private sector puts their financial statements together. So you're going to include all of your assets, your liabilities, everything's on full accrual for both sets of government, so governmental activities and your enterprise activities. Those are both included there. The governmental fund statements, those are prepared on we call it a modified accrual. It's very similar to how your budgetary reporting. So you're going through the budget process right now for 2026. Those governmental fund statements are more budgetary focused and modified accruals. So they don't include certain aspects like capital assets, like long-term debt. And that's the primary difference between those two sets of statements. And so we're required to include both sets in an audit report, and that's why you've got multiple sets of financial statements in the packet. In terms of what we focused on this year for the audit, again, I mentioned what the goal of the audit is to express an opinion on each major fund, all the other funds collectively. So there's certain funds within the town that we look at individually, and then there's certain funds that we look at collectively. Those are generally the smaller ones. The housing authority individually, we look at that, and each business type activity or the enterprise funds, that's another word for enterprise. Again, those are going to be the funds that focus on charges for services like water. Our test work specifically was focused on just a couple of key areas that are subject to estimate. So that would be things like depreciation, that would be areas like the pension that's reported. Those aren't inherently as easy to look at, to audit, because they are subject to estimate. And so we do dig into that just to make sure that looks reasonable and consistent. Any sort of new areas or areas that have significant balances. So your capital projects, we dig into those if there's a lot of capital activity, just to make sure that looks reasonable. Usually there's a lot of activity in that area. We always look at revenue recognition for all the funds, just to make sure revenue's there, it's in the right period, it exists. And as I mentioned, capital assets and long-term debt, those have significant disclosure behind them. So there's schedules in the financial statements that go into more details about them. And so that is also an area that we focus on. Within the financial statements, there's also significant accounting policies. We call those the notes, and then supplemental info. Supplemental info will be things like your budget schedules. So your accounting policies start in note 2. Those just dive a little bit deeper into why certain amounts are recorded in the financial statements according to GAAP, according to the rules that we have to follow for accounting. There's a capital asset note in note 6. One thing I wanted to point out was that there was a new accounting standard, not this year, not 2024, the year that we were auditing, but in 2023, that was in effect, where subscription agreements were required if they met the definition. IT subscription agreements, if they met the definition, they were required to be capitalized. And so the town did have one. It was a contract with Axon. They provide your body worn cameras and your taser equipment for your police department. That is a long-term agreement, a 5-year agreement that was renewed. And so because it's long-term, it has components of both a subscription for using the software on that equipment, plus actually using the equipment, so physical equipment, so you're leasing it, and you have a subscription. Those are now capitalized in your financial statement. So it's an asset and a liability that you have to record. In the first year, so in the year that you're renewing it, which was 2024, you also record the capital asset, and then the liability in your funds as well. Long-term debt is summarized in note 7. So there was a change, another accounting change. This was in 2024 for compensated absences, and I'll get to that in a minute. I guess backing up to capital assets. So there was some equipment this year that was sold at the reverse osmosis plant. So that did require us to look at that a little bit deeper because that equipment wasn't specifically itemized in your depreciation listing. And so because it was sold, it really needed to be separated, carved out, and then removed from your capital asset listing as a disposal or as a removal from capital assets. So that was one of the reasons, one of the things that we had to look into. One of the reasons that the audit was delayed was just getting that estimate on that to make sure that it was appropriately removed. And that did require having some conversations about what originally was capitalized, what was sold. Can we identify what those items are to be able to remove them from the financial statements? And then I mentioned supplemental info. So there are budget schedules for every single fund that has a budget adopted. Those are included throughout the report for the general fund all the way down to the enterprise funds. From an audit perspective, what we're looking for specifically is if any fund was over budget from an expenditure standpoint. There were no funds over budget from an expenditure standpoint for 2024. Next, I'll go through required communications, and so this is, we do issue a letter at the end of the audit, the conclusion of the audit, which I'm going to talk about here today. So there was a new accounting standard in 2024 related to compensated absences. So the town has always been required to record a liability or an obligation on your books for time that employees earn that is going to get paid out to them when they leave. What changed with this new standard is that instead of only recording a liability when an employee leaves, now the standard says you have to record a liability if the employee has earned the time, if the time rolls over, and if they're expected to use it. And so what was previously excluded was generally sick time, because a lot of times municipalities are not paying out sick time when an employee leaves. The town does have a vesting schedule related to sick time, and so the vested portion was always included. But now you have to say, okay, whatever's not vested, what do you expect the employee is going to use? And then that now becomes a liability on the books. And I previously mentioned the different sets of financial statements that only is included on those government-wide financial statements. So those full accrual statements, that's where this liability lives. And so the implementation of this standard resulted in an additional liability of about $74,000 this year. And so that did involve a process of looking at how much time everyone's accumulated, how much time is everyone expected to use. And we had a little bit of a benefit of a larger look back because this was looked at recently of how much time was used for certain employees. And so if they did use, and this is again going back to sick, vacation time was always accrued, vested sick time was always accrued. So this is just the unaccrued or the unvested portion of that sick time. And so we just had to look at that a little bit deeper to develop the estimate of how much was going to get accrued. And this was your finance team looked at this, and then we had to look at their assumptions, make sure the assumptions were reasonable so that the liability made sense and was recorded in the financial statements. I already mentioned accounting estimates, so again, that's just an area that we dive in a little bit deeper. As participants in the FPPA pension plan, you do report your portion of FPPA's pension on your books. There was a merger of, there was multiple FPPA plans. There was a merger of those plans in 2024. And so you used to have 2 plans that you participated in. Now it's just 1. So there is, the notes got shorter, which was kind of nice. You don't have as many pension notes to sift through, which is a good chunk of your audit report is pension disclosures. There were no disagreements as we went through the audit. As Stephen mentioned, we are presenting this later than we normally are. And so primarily that just relates to, there was, by the time we came in to do the audit, it was April, I believe. There was some turnover on the finance staff. There were some schedules that were not ready. And there was some adjustments that needed to be made ultimately after Stephen was hired. And so we just needed to have a little bit more time to be able to kind of stabilize finance and be able to kind of work through our remaining questions that we didn't get through when we were working on the audit. And some of them were just things like this compensated absences that I mentioned. It just required a little bit more in-depth analysis just to make sure that we got that reviewed and looked at and it was accurately recorded. You have a copy of the audit draft, as I mentioned. So in order to finalize the audit, we will issue a management representation letter once the audit is accepted, and then we'll be able to issue the final report and file with the state of Colorado. In terms of the audit opinion, so the audit opinion covers most of the audit report. We do not audit the MD&A. We do not audit the pension schedules that are included. However, we do look at them, we do read them, we do reconcile them and make sure that it looks reasonable and consistent in relation to the financial statements. And then one thing I want to mention is a single audit. So we did not perform a single audit. A single audit is basically a federal grant audit. It's a special audit that you're required to get if you have federal grants with expenditures that exceed $750,000. The ARPA money does fall under that category. My understanding is that you'll be spending that in either the next year or the next, maybe you've already spent it in 2025, or in the next 2 years, you're required to spend those funds by 2026, according to the ARPA guidance. If you only have ARPA expenditures in 2025, 2026, we don't have to do a full single audit, which is a deep dive into internal control and compliance over that specific award in accordance with federal requirements. There's a special audit, or it's called an alternative compliance exam that Treasury allowed smaller municipalities to have performed. And so we'll look at that as we go into 2025 planning, 2026 planning, just to see if if all you have is the ARPA fund, if all you have is the ARPA expenditures, they're over $750,000, which is the threshold, but if that's what's causing you to go over the threshold to need a single audit, we can do this other audit. It's easier, it's cheaper, it's less burden on the staff to be able to provide information. If you are over, so $750,000 is the threshold for 2024. It's actually going up to $1 million next year. So if you're over $1 million, so you have other federal grants that you've received that you're spending money on, then we may need to look at doing a single audit. So that's just something to keep in mind for the future. Finally, I'll talk about so our audit findings and audit adjustments. And again, I've mentioned there were, the audit was delayed this year. There was turnover on the finance side. There was some schedules that were not ready when we came to do the audit and that we needed to wait on to be able to be here today to provide an opinion. I do believe that these are one time. I don't think we're going to have a repeat this year, or I'm sorry, next year of that. So the audit adjustments were all corrected by the town. So these have all been made. They're all reflected in the financial statements that you see. And Stephen and Courtney, they were all great with working with us to be able to get through the questions that we had to be able to finalize the audit today. So again, I just want to preface these audits and findings that I don't know that they will be repeat next year. I just think it was a kind of a unique situation, and this happens when there's turnover. You have a small finance department and they have a lot on their plate, and so so there are a couple of system-generated schedules that do not internally agree to the financial statements. They're not material in our minds. We've brought this up with the finance team. They're going to continue to, it's primarily a developer deposit schedule is the bigger one. They're going to look at that, make sure that goes back quite a ways. And so there's a lot of history in there to research. And so rather than just make the schedule, agree to the trial balance, it does take some time to look into what needs to be refunded possibly. And so so that's something that we've the last couple of years have talked about, making sure that that gets cleaned up eventually, but that's just not something that you can do overnight. It does take time to research, especially since some of these deposits go back quite a ways. There were some taxes that were collected that we did have to make adjustments for. So again, I mentioned the accrual basis. So we look at accrual entries to make sure they're recorded in the right period. So there were some December taxes that are collected in January. It's pretty normal. They just weren't, the entry wasn't posted for 14,000. Again, this was posted to the financial statements, so that's been corrected. And there were some March taxes, March of 2024 taxes that actually just weren't collected until this year. So there's a unique, when you have governmental fund reporting, if you don't, in governmental funds specifically, that doesn't get reported in revenue if you don't receive it within the first 60 days of the year following. It gets deferred essentially. So on your government-wide statements, it's revenue. On your governmental statements, governmental fund statements, just because of the unique accounting requirements for governmental funds, it will be revenue in 2025 instead of 2024. It was collected, it was recorded, we just needed to make sure it was recorded in the right period. So audit journal entries, we had some audit journal entries last year. The normal process when you go through an audit is if we give certain entries need to get reversed. They were not, and so they were caught this year as we were going through the audit. We were just trying to reconcile things back to last year. So they've been reversed. Again, I don't expect that this will be an issue going forward, but the impact of when something doesn't get reversed, it means it's recorded in 2 periods. So you backdate it. When we give you a journal entry, you backdate it to the right period, but then you have to reverse it so it doesn't show up in 2 different accounting periods. So those have been corrected. Again, I don't expect that this would continue. Because the town has quite a few leases, vehicle leases, and they have the new subscription agreement related to the police equipment, we made some journal entries to break out those payments. So normally those payments just get reported as a payment, but because on the financial statements, they're considered liabilities or long-term debt, they have to be broken out between principal and interest. So that's just reclassifying what you paid into what's principal and what's interest according to an amortization schedule. So all those schedules, we did assist with those schedules this year. All those schedules have been provided to the finance team, and so they should be able to make those entries going forward so that we don't have to come in and do those breakouts. But that's primarily just meant for financial reporting. They're there. It's just how we need to see them for the audit report. And really, I feel like all these items that I've discussed, they're part of the year-end process. They're part of the year-end close process. With continuity on the finance side, we recommend that there's a robust review of these adjustments just to make sure that accrual entries and accounting entries are posted and captured in the right accounting period. It's not that they weren't posted, it's just making sure they're in the right period. And I think this was kind of a unique year where we had turnover, and I just don't expect that I'll be up here next year talking about these same items. With that's all I really want to talk about for the financial statements. If there's any questions at all, I'm happy to answer them.
All righty, thank you very much for a thorough presentation. Do apologize for the turnover and the things that you had to address, but glad to see that we got through them. Questions from the board, starting with Trustee Beckman.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Trustee Orcutt?
No questions.
Trustee Wakeman?
No questions. Thanks for thorough presentation.
Trustee Roseberry?
No questions, thank you.
Trustee Nix?
No questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean?
No questions.
I don't have any. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no further questions, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the 2024 financial statements and submit a copy of those statements to the state of Colorado.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Roseberry?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Nix?
Yes.
Trustee Orcutt?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next item on the action agenda. Is the acknowledgement of receipt by the town board of the 2026 proposed budget. Stephen Olchek. Yes, Stephen.
I gave you a second chance here. I want to say thank you, Abby, Sam, and Isaiah, who's also on their team, for all their hard work this year, and thanks for working with me. I also want to say thank you to all the staff. I know being new, coming in as a finance director and trying to get up to speed on everything, I asked a lot of questions for a lot of different staff members. So thank you for being patient with me as we work through the audit and to get it all taken care of. So we're going to roll right into the budget. So the purpose of this agenda item tonight is to acknowledge the receipt of the 2026 proposed budget. The state of Colorado requires the Board of Trustees to acknowledge receipt of proposed budget by the upcoming year by October 15th. So I know we're a little bit early. I will be in training the next board meeting, so we want to get this out in time. So we have no other late filings or anything. So I want to make sure we are on time for this. The proposed 2026 budget is presented to you tonight. It's just an overview of the town's revenues and expenditures as we see them now. Now, I know we met in the last workshop going over this. This is a very fluid document right now. Numbers are changing. By the time I submitted this over to Carrie, within the next day, we already had numbers changing. I actually had numbers changing within the last couple hours going into this board meeting. So it will be a moving document for a while here. So after we do it tonight, then when the state requires that we have a public hearing, before the budget can actually be adopted. So this year, the public hearing is planned to be November 24th at the regular board session. Then at the conclusion of the hearing, if everything looks good there, we are going to move for adoption in December, barring no issues, be December 10th meeting. The town board is receiving proposed document today, and along with staff, we'll continue reviewing and discussing the 2026 budget prior to the public hearing date. So staff and I are still having different meetings throughout the day, going over everything, getting refined numbers, getting, any increases that might be for next year, and looking at our expenses. And then we'll be having some meetings about our revenue requirements and what we need to do to get everything ready for next year's budget, so we can present to the staff, to the board at our next workshop. So at this time, I can take any questions that we have on the proposed budget that's in front of you tonight.
Thank you very much. Under royalties, we seem to go up significantly to $1.4 million. Do you have any idea why that is? It just kind of sticks out a little bit.
For the revenues and royalties?
Yes, sorry.
So that's actually a year-end estimates here as far as what came in this year. So on the budget side, we're at $45,000 for next year, but we had some increased royalties, and I can pull that up here. Sorry, bear with me on the computer here. So our royalties year to date right now are the 1.4 is what we have received as of August of this year.
Why is it so much higher than last year?
So I've got oil and gas leases. I know oil and gas went up significantly last year, and I do believe we missed some of it during the filing, but we did have a significant increase over the property of oil and gas last year. It was a significant increase.
Thank you. All right, questions from the board. Trustee Wakeman.
No questions at this time. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do, but skimmed through and expect to spend a lot more time with it.
Trustee Roseberry.
No questions, thank you.
Trustee Nix.
No questions.
Trustee Beckman.
No questions.
Trustee Orcutt.
No questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean.
No questions.
I already had mine. Thank you very much for a nice presentation and all your hard work on this. I know that you came in and had to hit the ground running. So, all right, I'll take a motion from the board if there's no further questions to accept the,
I move to acknowledge the receipt of the proposed 2026 budget.
Thank you.
A second.
Who is that? Sorry.
Dan Dean.
Okay.
Pro Tem.
And Town Clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Wakeman.
Yes.
Trustee Beckman.
Yes.
Trustee Nix.
Yes.
Trustee Orcutt.
Yes.
Trustee Roseberry.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean.
Yes.
Mayor Austin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I might, I just want to really commend Stephen on the job he has done since he started with the town. He kind of walked into a little bit of a mess, getting the 2024 audit done, and also beginning the budget process for 2026. So it's been a big plateful that he's had to contend with, and he's done it extremely pleasantly, especially when his computer works right. But I think it's been a big benefit to staff because he's working closer with all the staff as to what the true expenses are. So I think you'll see a better budget presented in the end. So thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the opioid settlement participation. Presenting is Matthew Gould from our legal department.
Thank you, Mayor Austin. Let me apologize at the beginning if this is a little jumbled. I've been trying to refresh my memory regarding something that the board did about 4 years ago. Very briefly, 4 years ago, the board entered, well, first of all, what's before the board tonight is a decision whether to participate in 2 settlements regarding opioid funds that were obtained through a national litigation in the northern, I believe it's the Northern District of Ohio. In 2021, the board entered into a memorandum of understanding with the state of Colorado related to the allocation of funds received by the state from this national opioid litigation. At that time, 2 settlements were also presented to the board, and the board approved participation in those. The effect of participation is that the money is received by the state of Colorado, and then it's allocated according to the terms of the MOU. And you can look through the materials to see what that allocation is. I also did provide in the packet some background information on the memorandum of understanding just to help the board members that weren't part of that decision to understand what was happening. We've recently received 2 more settlement participation forms that the board is being asked to approve. And in fact, one of those is in the packet. It begins on, I believe, the 4th page of let me see what the document is titled. Okay, so in the packet, it's called the Purdue-Sackler Participation Documents. And if you flip back, second, third, to the 4th page, you see something that is labeled Exhibit K. And that's the agreement that the board is being asked to approve. In addition, a second settlement was identified today that needs approval, and that is the secondary manufacturers combined subdivision participation and release form. It looks similar. It's got Exhibit K at the top. The reason for the exhibit label, I think, is that it was probably part of a very large filing in a bankruptcy or settlement proceeding. So that is at as high a level as I can provide a description of what's before the board, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Actually, I do want to provide one other bit of information. It occurred to me that the board might want to know what had happened to any funds that were received. Funds have been received. The funds received that would be allocated to Milliken go by virtue of the town's decision to the regional organization. And that's basically Weld County. So we didn't, Mr. Krochek was able to learn just today that Milliken's year 1, which would have been 2022 distribution, would have been $4,657.01. And the initial estimate of total allocations through the year 2038 was just over $41,000. So this, for the town, is not a huge amount of money, but when it goes into the pot that the county, that the regional council at the county level administers, then of course that adds up. And quite a number of towns have allowed their money to be passed over to the regional council, so that's not at all unusual for Milliken. There also, I put together a data sheet on the distribution of the funds. There's a couple of very good resources if the board members want to educate themselves. There's a map in the state level dashboard that you can click on Milliken to see, a little more information about what happens to those funds. So with that, I'm happy to do my best to answer any questions. And I will say that I need to amend the motion when we get to that point because we need to be sure that we include both settlements.
Thank you. Questions from the board, starting with Trustee Nix.
No questions.
Trustee Roseberry.
I read somewhere if we don't do it, it's a little bit less than what the county receives, correct? If we decide to opt out.
Sitting here, I highlighted, give me just a second and I can read this to you. There is a discussion of what happens if we don't approve. I just have to find the right document. Darn it. Here it is. Any subdivision that does not participate cannot directly share in the settlement funds, even if the subdivision's state, which would be Colorado, is settling and other participating subdivisions are sharing in settlement funds. Any subdivision that does not participate may impact and reduce the amount of money for programs to remediate the opioid crisis in Colorado. So that's a description in the documents themselves of what happens if you don't participate, or if the Milliken doesn't participate.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Trustee Wakeman.
Just a quick clarification on, aside from obviously choosing to participate, what's required of us to participate, just stating that we are. Anything further?
Just basically vote on approving the participation forms, and then there's a process for getting those signed. I believe there's 3 different options for getting those signed. But the way that we did it before was and the way that this motion is written up is Mayor Austin is authorized to sign.
Sounds good then. Yeah, I assumed that was the case, but I'd rather
That's
not
it.
assume, right?
Yes.
How much it requires of us and staff, obviously.
It is essentially a contract, so it requires that level of vote. I guess one other thing to mention is participation means not only that funds are received, but it also means that the town is waiving its right to bring its own lawsuits, which, given the fairly modest damages, I don't know that the town ever would, and certainly we haven't been tasked with doing that. It's kind of a high-level thing.
A little bit bigger.
Yes.
Bigger than us, yeah. Understood, thank you.
Trustee Beckman.
I don't have any questions.
Trustee Orcutt.
So is every town or city that participates in this, are they participating regionally? Is it, because we had a share of what, $4,000, and we're...
So there are municipalities that did not pass their funds on to the regional council for administration. You can actually find estimates of the amounts of money that have been allocated to those jurisdictions through the state level dashboard. I looked at that spreadsheet and I noticed Milliken wasn't listed as I was learning what was going on with the funds, and it appears to be a listing of those municipalities that have elected to get the funds themselves. And honestly, bigger cities have bigger dollars.
Right. I guess what's the benefit to us to give them to the region instead of keeping them?
Is there any requirement how we use the funds? I guess, right?
Yeah, I believe there was.
There are, and I believe that's going to be addressed in the MOU. They're limited to certain types of programs. At the regional level in Weld County, if you look at the resources that were shared, it looks to my eyes essentially like a grant process, and they have what appears to be a 1-year cycle. The most recent cycle for applications or for proposals ended on August 1st, and the funds will be distributed January 1st of 26. And there are rules for what kinds of programs they will support with that money. The minimum proposal is $10,000. There's no upper limit.
Okay. So yeah. All right. That makes sense. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean.
I'm sure Weld County is doing wonderful things with this. I would be curious to know what some of the programs they are that they're supporting. If that's something that we can not necessarily expound on tonight, but at some time, at least have a written report on it.
So the Weld County page that's linked in the data sheet that I circulated tonight, there's a data sheet that I asked Carrie to put in front of everybody tonight. The Weld County webpage, the Weld County Regional Council webpage, does post agendas for the meetings that are held and also minutes. I just glanced at a couple of those, and I think you probably could find some detail, or someone could find some detail about how the money's being used. But that's as far as I got.
I'm just curious. I mean, I'm sure they're doing good things. I'm just curious what they are.
Any other questions? Hearing none, Mr. Gould, could you please give us the new motion?
Yes. So I will read the motion, and somebody can simply say, so moved. Okay. I move to authorize Mayor Austin to sign the proposed Purdue Direct Settlement Subdivision Participation and Release Form and the proposed Secondary Manufacturers Combined Subdivision Participation and Release Form.
So moved.
Second.
Town clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Beckman?
Yes.
Trustee Nix?
Yes.
Trustee Orcutt?
Yes.
Trustee Rosemary?
Yes.
Trustee Wakeman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean?
Yes.
Mayor Austin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration and adoption of resolution number 2025-20 to set hearing dates for the Epic Estates at Taylor annexation. Presenting from our Community Development Department is Jordan Cashman.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. Before you tonight is Resolution 2025-20 that establishes compliance with Colorado Revised Statute 31-12-107, subsection 1 of the of the Municipal Annexation Act of 1965, and setting the public hearings for consideration of the Epic Estates at Taylor annexation. Representatives of Epic Estates at Taylor LLC submitted a petition for annexation into the town of Milliken for property consisting of approximately 155 acres. Staff worked closely with the town attorney and determined that the application and petition is complete and ready to set for hearing. Provided to you today is the resolution, the annexation petition, the annexation map, the zoning map, and the Colorado Revised Statute 31-12-107. Resolution 2025-20 is presented to the Board of Trustees to set the hearing dates. Staff proposes that the hearing for the Planning Commission be held on November 5th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the public hearing room at the Milliken Police Department building, and the hearing for the Board of Trustees be held on November 12th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the public hearing room at the Milliken Police Department building. Suggested motions are in your packets, and more details about the annexation will come in those future hearings.
Ms. Cashman, very nice presentation. Thank you very much. Just reminding the board that this is just an application to set the hearing dates. All questions regarding the annexation should be held until the public hearing. Are there any questions that are specific to the hearing dates from the board, starting with Trustee Beckman?
No questions.
Trustee Orcutt?
No questions.
Trustee Nix?
No questions.
Trustee Roseberry?
No questions.
Trustee Wakeman?
No questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean?
No questions.
And I don't have any either. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I will take a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 2025-20, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Milliken finding substantial compliance with the requirements of Section 31-12-107(1) of the Municipal Annexation Act of 1965 and initiating annexation proceedings of the Epic Estates at Taylor Annexation.
Second.
Town Clerk, please call for a vote.
Trustee Nix.
Yes.
Trustee Orcutt.
Yes.
Trustee Roseberry. Trustee Wakeman.
Yes.
Trustee Beckman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dean.
Yes.
Mayor Austin.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Do we have any board reports tonight? Anything anybody would like to discuss at the end? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
I don't even think she finished that. I think I